Class number 5 is my favorite MCW class for Model 3 Ranked Play. We are starting where we always start with the MCW, is the 16.5 MCW Cyclone Long Barrel for bullet velocity, idle sway, and firing aim stability. These classes have changed a little bit since season 1, so stay tuned for all of them. The optic, we got to scroll over to the Mark III reflector. This is my personal preference. It's either going to be this one or the slate reflector, depending on y'all's preference. Try both out and let me know what you think, but mine has fully landed on the Mark III reflector for all MCW classes. Ever since they updated the stock, the best stock on the MCW is no stock on the MCW. So some people will use this SL Warforged Precision stock for the gun kick control and firing aim stability, but the reductions in sprint to fire speed, in my opinion, don't make this worth it at all, so I run no stock. I go down to the rear grip here, however, and I choose the claw grip for firing aim stability, gun kick control, recoil control. Whether or not this actually does anything, it's hard to tell, but the only cons are in aiming, idle stability, so you might as well throw it on. Going over to the underbarrel, here's where there's a lot of contention in the COD community as to what's the best attachment. In my opinion, it's the Phantom 5 hand stop. Other people will use the DR6, and some people will use this F-Tac. After trying out all of the above, I have fully landed on the Phantom 5 hand stop for my favorite MCW build. And speaking of contention, we're going to go over here to the muzzle, where for the most part, it's either going to be the T51R billeted brake for vertical recoil, or the L4R flash hider for recoil control and gun kick control. Some people also use the Jack BFB, but with how much that slows your gun down and how much that makes you present on the minimap, I don't really find this one as useful. One thing I've found as well with the MCW is that changing your class about once a week is truly the best MCW class. It sounds crazy, but I switch between the L4R flash hider and the billeted brake every single week. Every time I switch, I feel like it's better than the last time I used it. So in my opinion, I think you should try doing that. Find which one seems the best for you at that point in time, and then once it feels bad, switch to the other one. But for now, my favorite MCW class in class number 5 is this one right here. And class number 4 is my second favorite MCW and the one that we just went over. Like I said, the exact same attachments as the previous one. However, this one has the billeted brake instead of the L4R flash hider. A little bit worse in terms of the bullet velocity and range. However, with the addition of the 16.5 Cyclone Long Barrel, it doesn't really make that much of a difference. We're talking 804 bullet velocity compared to 837 bullet velocity. Damage range goes down by about 5% as well for the effective damage range and the minimum damage range. Like I said, change this about once every week or so until you find the one that works best for you. That still is going to work for class number 4 for me though. And for class number 3, we're going with a Renetti. This one is on the majority of my classes if I'm not using a knife, and we're only going to be using 3 attachments for this Renetti. We're going to go over here to the muzzle. I found that the Stir 45 Sky Fury compensator is my personal favorite because it really only messes with the aim down sight speed, and that isn't half bad. The problem with the rest of the attachments, including the Zeman, is that they mess with the bullet velocity, which is already low on the pistol. As you see here, 356. It's still not much better with the Sky Fury compensator, but I still find it worth it, as well as this one helping out more with the horizontal and vertical recoil control compared to the Zeman. After the muzzle, we're going to go over here to the barrel. We're going to use the short competition barrel. This one makes the recoil control worse, but it's worth it for helping the aim down sight speed, sprint to fire speed, and the hip fire spread. The hip fire is going to be huge for the pistol, especially when you're using it up in close quarters. You want to be able to walk as fast as you can and hip fire as tight as you can when you're going in these tight corridors, searching for people that you got one shot previously. And the last attachment for the rear grip that I'm going to be using is the Renetti wood grain grip. This allows you to pull your pistol out faster and improves the sprint to fire speed while reducing the gun kick control and recoil control. The reason that I like this one so much more than the Eclipser grip, although if you're following GAs, you should be using this one. If you get somebody one shot and you run out of ammo, you can swap to your pistol that much faster. Like I said, if you're following pro GAs, you probably should be using the Eclipser grip because it helps with movement speed, and that's the only improvements that you can be looking for with the Renetti. But while it's allowed in ranked play, you might as well be using the wood grain grip. And for class number 2, speaking of pro GAs and guns that pros don't use, we have the sniper. This is the Katt-AMR. As of season 2 of ranked play, the other sniper isn't allowed to be used, so you have to be using the Katt. And really, I don't know why they keep any snipers in, because that doesn't really follow what the pros play on, but it's in the game anyway, so if you're gonna get sniped, you might as well be able to snipe back. I don't like messing with the barrel on this gun. Some people use the short barrel because it helps with the aim down sight speed. However, I found that a bullet velocity as low as 624 really does not feel right in my hands with a sniper. You actually run no barrel at all, and what that looks like for the details is a little bit higher of a bullet velocity at 660. Still kind of low, so you have to lead your shots at longer ranges, but that's something to keep in mind. Over here with the muzzle, where we are going to choose the MV50 muzzle brake. This helps with vertical recoil control and firing aim stability. Not something you really need to worry about with a sniper rifle, but I promise you it makes the gun feel a lot better while shooting it. It sounds kind of faded, but try it out and then let me know what you think. You'll see what I'm talking about. We're going to go over here to the optic, to the Akalina LR stock optic. This is another interesting choice in my opinion, but after messing with the sniper a decent amount, I found that I do like this optic the most. Going over to stock, we're going to use the tactical stock pad to help with the aim down sight speed. For the bolt, we're going to go to the ephemeral quick bolt. For rechambering speed, this lowers the rechambering accuracy, but it helps to get back in the game a little bit faster. And then for the last one, the rear grip, we're going to use the phantom grip for sprint to fire and aim down sight speed. With the reduction in recoil control and gun kick control, again, not terribly important when it comes to a bolt action sniper. And that is class number 2. And my favorite up next is class number 1, which is the Rival 9. My favorite gun in the game to use. I have an absolute blast, especially with this class. A lot of differences in this one you'll see, especially with the underbarrel, but for the barrel, we're going to use the Rival C clear shot barrel for damage range, bullet velocity, and recoil control. So go ahead and slap that one on there. Over to the muzzle, we're going to scroll over to the Purifier muzzle brake. This helps with horizontal recoil and firing aim stability. This reduces the bullet velocity and range, but not by much, only by 8%. And the benefits of this muzzle make it absolutely worth it, so use the Purifier. For the underbarrel, some people use the Phantom, some people use the XRK Edge. I really like the DR6. I've messed around with all of these, and I promise you that in my opinion, the DR6 is the best. You really don't need the help of the vertical recoil when it comes to the Phantom 5, and the reduction in the horizontal recoil really makes this not worth it in my opinion. If you look at the stats comparing the DR6 and the X10 Phantom 5, yes, this helps with the vertical recoil, but I promise you the DR6 ends up being worth it for the differences in the movement speed, especially with strafing. For the final 2 attachments on the Rival 9, we're going to go over to the stock. We're going to choose the MTZ Marauder stock. This did get a nerf, but it's still the best stock on the Rival 9. So go ahead and use that. This helps with gun kick control, firing aim stability, and aiming idle sway. And the only reductions are in sprint to fire speed, movement speed, so on and so forth, which has already helped to improve with the DR6. And for the last attachment, the rear grip, we're going to use the Rival Vice Assault grip, helping with gun kick control, horizontal recoil, and vertical recoil. All the above are things that the Rival 9 needs help with, so it's good to add those. And now for lethals, tacticals, and perks, I use a stun grenade on every single one of my classes, except for one where I'll have a smoke grenade for search and destroy strats. I would recommend having at least one copy and paste class that has a smoke on it. That way you can pull it out even faster during search and destroy. For lethals and tacticals, I switch between Semtex and frag depending on the strategies as well. For search and destroy, it's usually frag grenade. For variant game modes, hardpoint and control, if I'm running an SMG, I want a Semtex. But sometimes on some maps, I'll actually run an ordnance frag grenade. If y'all have seen my channel, you know my Karachi nade that goes all the way over mid with ordnance nades. So it really is just strategy dependent depending on what you want to use. For field upgrade, it is trophy system every single time unless I'm not running the covert sneakers, which I do on some classes. In that case, I'll run Deddy. That is going to be completely dependent on which boots that you run. For the gloves, I've pretty much stuck to either the quick grip gloves or the ordnance gloves. I don't really notice too much of a difference in the rest of them except for maybe the marksman gloves with snipers, but I tend to stay true to the quick grip gloves unless I'm trying to throw things extra far. For the boots, it's covert sneakers 99.9% of the time. Other than that, it will be lightweight boots or maybe the climbing boots for skid row, search, and destroy, and that really just depends on how much of an ego you have. For the last one, the gear is going to be EOD padding. On 99% of my classes, I have EOD. Sometimes I'll run tac mask if I find myself getting stunned. That's really more of a mid-game switch for me as I die more to nades than I feel like I do to stuns. And the vest, of course, is the infantry vest, the only one that you can choose. And those are my top 5 classes for Model Warfare 3 Ranked Play. I hope you all enjoyed. Like and subscribe for more, and I will catch you next time at lunchtime.